Hello viewers, welcome to my new website Science to Live on patreon.com. Now let me apprise you that hereafter I'll be posting all my videos related to class 10 tutorials on this website, that is Science to Live by Poonam Singh on patreon.com. So I would urge you right in the beginning, become patrons of this channel from the beginning, so that you get the recent updates right from the beginning and follow me till the end to score a full 100. So children, today's chapter is chapter number 6 of your NCERT book, that is Life Processes. It's a biology chapter, Life Processes. So we'll be, and the class, obviously you know that we will be doing only class 10 tutorials in this particular website. So now what do you mean by life processes, children? You may not be able to say immediately like what life processes are. Let me start with simple things. Like what do you call a thing living and dead? Or what? How do you say that something is live or something is dead or non-living? Let's take some examples. For example, myself. What do you think? I'm living or non-living? You say I'm living because I'm speaking, I'm moving my hands, I'm writing on the board. So you say that, man, you are living. And the same way, the various animals, they bark, they run, they eat, they drink, and they do so many activities. So they are also living. But what about plants, children? Here is a plant before you. What will you say about this? This plant is not moving. So what do you think? Is this living or non-living? You might say that, ma'am, this plant is green in color, so it's living. But children, you must have seen certain plants which have a different coloration. They have a different coloration. They may be purple, they may be yellow, and they're also living or dead. Let's see. But children, there is one feature which you might say, which shows that it's living. You might say that, ma'am, certain leaves in this plant are turning yellow. As you can see, these leaves are turning slightly yellow, and here some of these leaves are also turning slightly yellow. Please focus on the plant. So you can say that, ma'am, these yellow leaves will fall off after a few days or a few after a fortnight or a few days. So you might say that, ma'am, it's living because it's green, and the yellow leaves will fall off because they'll become dead. So the yellow leaves are dead and the green leaves are living. Children, that's a very broad or a very not a very precise answer. You can't apply it in general. Now let's see for this toy. This toy, for example, what do you say? Is this living or non-living? Obviously you will say, ma'am, it's living. It's non-living. It's dead. But let me show you. I'm keeping it here and I'm moving it. Let me keep it on a firm surface and show you. Oh, it's moving. I'll show you again. It's moving. So is it living? Again, I'll show you. Yes, it keeps on moving even when I'm removing my finger. So do you think it's living? No. This is not living. This is a dead thing. this toy is dead, it's made of plastic. Why it's dead? Even though it's moving, but when is it moving? When you are applying an external force, then only it's moving. Otherwise, it's not moving. When the force is removed, it stops by itself. It has got a rolling point at the base. That is why it keeps on moving a little bit more even when you remove the external force. Otherwise, it's not moving at all. If you keep it like this, it will not move. And what about the plant? Do they move? No, even you can't see them moving. But on the trees or somewhere in the park, you might have seen the branches moving, the flowers moving, the fruits or the leaves moving. But that is also not a very valid answer to prove that plant is living. So let's look for some valid answer. So we can say that certain things which are visibly moving to us may not be living or non-living. That means that we cannot say that if something is, if you are able to see something moving, we cannot say it with surety whether it's living or non-living. So what is that sure thing which will tell you that this thing is living or non-living? Children, for that we'll have to come back to very minute structures, like we'll have to come to the microscopic structures. You all know that any living thing has got a structure of organization. For example, the organs, the living things have got or is made up of organs, and organs are made up of tissues, and tissues are made up of cells. And have you seen, do you know the structure of cell? The cell has got many organelles. The cell has got many organelles. It has got this liquid also inside it, a fluid inside it. So that means, and can you see the cell with your naked eyes? No, you cannot see the cell with your naked eyes. You can see a cell only under a high power microscope. So that means you will have to come to the molecular level. Molecular level of any part of a living body. You will have to come to the molecular level of any part of the living thing. And this molecular level is cell. And even the cell can be broken into very fine molecules. Even a single cell can be broken into very fine molecules. So that is the molecular level. So when you see at the molecular level, you will see that all these molecules are moving. The molecules are moving in a living thing. The molecules are moving in a living thing. Whereas in a non-living thing, or a dead thing, there is no movement of the molecules. There is no movement of the molecules. You know, children, have you heard of the term virus? Have you heard of the term virus? This is a virus. The virus is unicellular, that is, it is made up of a single cell. It is made up of a single cell. One cell. One-celled organism it is. So if you see virus, in this virus, if you see it under a microscope, the molecules are not moving. They're not moving. But when this virus enters a host, that host means what? If this virus enters any animal, a human being, or so on, at that time, this virus becomes active. That means its molecules start moving. Its molecules start moving. And it becomes active. Now it can do all the activities which a living thing can do. It can multiply, for example. It needs food. It needs everything, which we'll come to later. That is the reason why virus has not been given the status of living or non-living. Virus enjoys a status which is neither living nor non-living. So remember that. Now children, let's see about the molecular movements in other animals or in higher animals. Virus is a single-celled animal. It's a lower animal, lower organism. Now let's see about the molecular movement in higher animals. Children, in the case of higher animals, including humans, what happens is, including humans, higher animals, including humans and plants. We know that animals and plants are living, so we are including these. In the case of these, there are tissues. As I told you before, that the body is made up of organs. Organs are made up of tissues, and tissues are made up of cells. And if you see an animal cell or a plant cell, whatever, we are not going into the differences between the two. You have already learned that in your 9th class. So, in the case of these cells, I told you that these can be broken down into very fine molecules. Each of the cells can be broken down into very fine molecules. Now, whether these molecules move or not will decide if the animal or the plant or the human is living or dead. So, we have seen under the microscope, under a high power microscope, we have seen under a high power microscope that the cells of the molecules of which each, this is a cell, a single cell. It is made up of a number of molecules. So we have seen under a high power microscope that these molecules are in continuous motion. They are in continuous motion. So that is the thing which proves that the animals, the humans and the plants are living. So, since now these molecules, since these are molecules and they are continuously moving and they are living structures, so they are bound to get damaged. Anything which is living is bound to get damaged. Even a person and a human does not live on and on. There is a certain period when he dies ultimately. Same way, the molecules have got a lifespan. They are moving all through, they are doing their work, so they will get damaged and they have to be repaired then. If all the molecules get damaged, then how will the cell function? And if the cell doesn't function and if the cell also dies, how will the tissues work and how will the organs work and how will the body work? So, for the maintenance of these molecules, for the repair and maintenance of these molecules, we have certain life processes. Okay? For the repair and maintenance of the molecules of the cell which are in continuous motion we have to have certain methods or processes to keep the cells alive, and these processes are called life processes. So this was our heading, and this is what it is, life processes. Now children, this life processes will be several types, which I'll tell you, because one single life process cannot do all the functions of such a complex body which the living things have. Let's see what are the various types of life processes. Now children, first of all, these life processes, what do? They repair and maintain the cells. So how will they do it? How will any mechanism will repair and maintain? It will need certain things to do that process. For repairing and maintaining, it will need certain basic things. And what is that basic thing? That basic thing is the food. For example, here you have a single cell with a nucleus. So a cell will require food so that food can give some kind of energy to the cell so that cell can carry out its function. And so the food is taken up by the cell and that food is converted into energy inside the cell, and this energy is utilized to do various functions to carry out other life processes. This energy is utilized to carry out other life processes. I'll tell you. And another thing, what a cell needs is oxygen. So we know the two things that we take externally is only the food and the air, that is oxygen. Nothing else do we take, does our body take from outside. It's just the food and the air, that is the oxygen, which we take inside our body, and we don't take anything else apart from this. So these two things must be doing something in the cell which helps the cell to do all the various life processes. So this is what is the food and the oxygen is taken up by the cell, and this helps in producing energy, and this energy is utilized. Let me tell you before that, this food is digested in the cell, and that digestion takes place in the digestive system. So this food is taken up by the cell and it is digested in the cell, and this digestion is done by a system or a life process which is known as the digestive system. So digestive system is one life process. And this oxygen is also taken up by the cell, and this oxygen, and in the cell there is food, in the cell there is food which is coming from here, and this food is broken down by the oxygen to release energy. In the cell, this food is broken down by the oxygen to release energy, and this energy is used to perform various life processes. And this energy is not directly used. This energy is utilized in various biochemical reactions, and through those biochemical reactions where this energy is used, the various life processes are carried out. Now, there is this oxygen is taken in by the cell, and it is processed in the respiratory system. It is processed in the respiratory system, which means that the oxygen is taken up. You know, we take in oxygen from our mouth and it goes in the respiratory system, where it is utilized by the cells of the respiratory system, and then that oxygen is passed on into the bloodstream, and from that bloodstream the waste products are taken in. And what is the waste product of the respiratory system? It is the carbon dioxide. We all know that we breathe in oxygen and we give out carbon dioxide. So this oxygen helps in the breakdown of food to release energy, and this oxygen is this oxygen and the food is there in one cell. I have shown you here. Now there are millions and billions of cells in the body. So all the cells require this food and oxygen. So there has to be a system which will carry the food and the oxygen to all the various cells of the body. So we need a transport system which will carry the food and oxygen to all parts of the body, that is to all the cells of the body. So we have a transport system. I'll draw it like this. We have a transport system. So this respiratory system was the second life process, and this transport system or transportation is the third life process. So transportation of what? Transportation of food and oxygen to various parts of the body, that is to various cells of the body. It is this transportation system which carries to all parts of the body. And can you guess, children, what is the common name for this transportation system? It is the circulatory system, right, which includes blood and all. It is the circulatory system, which includes heart, blood, and it is the blood which transports the various materials. And children, now when we are taking food inside and when we are taking oxygen inside, naturally there will be some waste products. The waste product of the respiratory system is the carbon dioxide, and the waste product of the food, you can say, or various biochemical reactions. The waste product of various biochemical reactions is, I'm simply writing here waste products, and these waste products can be, I'm giving you a few examples, these waste products can be urea, which is passed out in the urine. It can be your perspiration, that is perspiration, which is passed out from the skin. The waste product can be what else? The stools. And the waste product is of carbon dioxide also is another waste product. So all these waste products have to be removed from the body. It is very essential because they will not only obstruct the various other life processes, but they are extremely harmful if they remain inside the body for too long. So this system which removes the waste product is known as the excretory system. And this is the fourth life process. So we have discussed 4 life processes. About each life process I will be discussing in my future classes. But before winding up, let me also tell you that the other life processes that we also have in our body. I have to drop this. So 4 we have counted here, and the other life processes are, 5th one, control and coordination. Control and coordination. Children, as you know, various life processes are going on in our body, so there has to be some control mechanism. There has to be something which should be able to control the functioning of all these systems. That is the control and coordination system, which we call the nervous system in common language. the sixth life process. So this is the fifth life process. The sixth life process is reproduction. So you know, every animal, including human and plants, they reproduce through different mechanisms, and it is a very essential system, because unless and until the animals or the plants or the humans reproduce, they will not be able to continue their race, their species, and finally all the animals, plants, and humans will vanish from this earth, which we don't want. So to continue the race, reproduction is necessary, where reproduction means giving rise to new plants or giving rise to babies. That is what is reproduction. So this is the sixth life process. Now the seventh life process is growth. You know, whenever anything is growing, we say that it's alive, it's living. If the plant is growing, we say it's a sign that it's alive. The humans, they grow from a baby to an adult. That's a sign of life. So growth is another life process which includes certain mechanisms. Then the eighth life process is movement, which we discussed in the beginning. This was the first thing that we discussed. Movement. Any living thing, we call a thing a living thing only when it is capable of moving. We know about animals and humans. We have seen them moving, eating, talking, everything. But the only problem is plants. How do you say that plants are moving? See, plants, all the plants don't show visible movements, but a few plants like sunflower, for example, sunflower, it shows movement. You all know that a sunflower moves towards the sun, The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So accordingly, the flower, that is the sunflower, moves from east to west. Just try to see this somewhere. If you find this sunflower anywhere in the garden or in a field, please try to notice. You probably will have to sit for one whole day, but it will be worth. And there is another example. For example, the touch-me-not plant. The touch-me-not plant, which is whose scientific name is Mimosa pudica. So this touch-me-not plant shows movement when its leaves are touched. When you touch, this plant looks like this, with very small leaves like this. Like this it looks, its branch looks like this. And if you touch any leaf with your finger, these leaves of the plant will fold. And when you remove your finger, only after a few minutes they will reopen. Until you keep your finger there, they will not open at all. When you remove your finger, then after some time, after some minutes, they reopen. So, children, this shows that plants show movement. They show movement to different stimuli. The sunflower is showing movement to the stimulus. What is the stimulus here? In the case of sunflower, it is the light. It is the light or the sun. And what is the stimulus here? In the case of touch me not plant, the stimulus here is touch. I hope you understand the meaning of stimulus. There is a word called stimulus and there is a word called response. Response to stimulus. It means, stimulus means the thing which irritates you or which instigates you. And response is the one, what you do after getting that stimulus. For example, the response here is it folds its sleeve, and the response in the case of sunflower is that it moves where the sun moves. So children, this is all about life processes. This is just the introduction, and we'll be taking up each and every life process in detail in my next classes. Till then, I would just urge you to please become patrons of Science to Live by Poonam Singh on the website patreon.com in large numbers. You will really be benefited. There will be many more blackboard classes plus experimentation, hands-on and field trips. I'll take you to the gardens, I'll take you outside. So there will be a lot of fun, and there will always be studies in a fun way. That means learning by doing. We'll be studying biology, learning by doing. Biology cannot happen in closed environment. You have to go out, you have to connect to the environment. Thank you.